Hello and welcome back. I'm Charles Blevins, and thank you for joining me for another episode on my channel at YouTube. So today I'm going to be talking about uh, Tilray Brands. Excuse me. Um, I'm talking about this company because, as like the average American, I have a small pension coming in. I still have a mortgage and one last kid in college. And I, I stick every little last dollar I can into the stock market um, to try to get a little extra income or for long-term savings uh, in case in case I need that money when I get older, and hopefully it grows a little bit. But at the same token, if you listen to the news, the stock analysts, they say everything is volatile. And I don't believe everything needs to be volatile. And this is where the lie comes in. So if we go back to the 90s, they were saying, oh, buy these companies, buy these companies. In the tech sector, they don't have profits, they're heavily in debt, and they're calling them billion-dollar companies, and people's just throwing all their money in it, and then the stock boom ends, and there's only a couple companies left. So from that standpoint, why listening to them, most people would have lost money if they didn't know which ones to pick. Since we don't have a crystal ball sitting in front of us telling us, oh, don't worry about these other 100 or 1,000 companies, just pick this one or two companies and you'll end up being wealthy. That's not the reality. So when I see companies that are actually doing things correctly and their stock is getting beat up, and I have pretty much my last few dollars wrapped up in them that I can afford to set aside, it aggravates me. So I wanted to talk about this particular company because I think it's getting beat up, and I don't think the company has put the right attention towards making people aware that it is a reliable investment strategy over the long haul. I'm not talking about tomorrow, but the long haul. So I want to turn around and show you uh, tile, Tilray Brands. And I will jump over here right now. Okay, this is where I look at this company. It's primarily, let me give you some background on the company. It was primarily a cannabis company that was selling recreation and pharmaceutical cannabis. And it originally started in Canada and part of the United States, especially around California. It put offices into New York and went on to the stock market. They were anticipating that the US would deregulate cannabis to a lower level, making it more accessible for cannabis corporations to capture the US market, and thinking, oh, wow, this will be the golden ticket. Well, that didn't happen after many years of attempting to try to get regulation reduced. So this company has actually done something very interesting and very different compared to most of these companies. They went out and started acquiring other businesses outside of the cannabis industry. So they went after one of the largest beverage companies out of Germany, and they bought off divisions of their alcoholic beverages. Then they went in and started buying up sports drink beverages or alternative beverages besides like not a non-Coke brand, more the more unique sports brands like caffeine sports brands or natural drinks. Well, when I took a look at this, this was actually a very smart plan. By buying up these companies, you turn around and you shore up your books and if you logically start thinking about it, at the end of the day, they have this debt sitting out there, but they bought all these assets that are actually turning revenues over. They're located in multiple different countries, so they're no longer reliant on trying to get into one country or to sell one product. So they're now spread throughout the world, their products are. If they can maintain what they're doing just at this point, they don't ever need to go into the US market to handle cannabis. So that means that now they're a stabilized company where they will have long-term growth as long as they maintain what they have. And what do I mean by maintaining? That means maintaining the employees, making sure the employees are happy and productive, making sure that they're a valuable part of their community wherever their different companies are located at, and that the community values those different companies. 3, making sure that they make the stockholders aware of these companies, how they're moving and how it's affecting the bottom line. So they're doing the first 2 pieces, it appears, but they're not talking about any of this. 4, that shores up Tilray's brand for a very long time and says that it will stay for a longevity. In other words, it has the legs to run and weather through storms because of now it's so diversified and multi-markets with actual revenues coming in that it can withstand the basic storms, volatility. So when they talk about that this company isn't worth it, I turn around and I look, I can see the books, I can see what it has done. It makes perfect sense. They thought about a different way of attacking and approaching a situation to ensure that they can exist more than just a few days, but for 10, 20, 30, 50 years. That means that it's a reliable investment and a wise investment. So now let's go in and take a look at their site, and I will show you why Tilray brand is making some very basic and kind of stupid mistakes. First of all, you don't need to put up a legal, what's your age? And this kind of ticks me off because they're not selling products off of their website that are for minors. This is not a porn site. It's not they're not selling cannabis directly off of their site. So they don't need this. It needs to be beefed up to look a lot more professional. And until they do that, so they're telling me that they're a cannabis company, but they're more than just a cannabis company now. So this imaging here is sending the wrong image for this company. Oops, I gotta fix my video recorder real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, so instead of telling me what they are, they're sending a very bad message of who they are. So their website isn't doing them any justice. What they really need to do is, yes, keep the theme of medical. So they should put medical cannabis. They should put beverages or um, adult recreational beverages and cannabis, something like that, or beverages and recreational cannabis. So medical beverages, and then adult recreational cannabis. This way, they break it down to 3 different areas and just hone in on what these divisions are. I don't need them to list 200 different companies or brands. It gets really way too confusing. If I want to dive in, give me a PDF file of the different businesses. I can go look them up and see what they're doing. But too much information, too one-sided on their website gets it a little bit confusing and just makes it too much work. I don't want to do that much work going through someone's website. I want to get right in and get going where I need to go. And that makes more sense to me. So when I look at this website, it really needs to be redone and change the imaging around and make it much more simplified for its investors. I would tell you, go out and take a look at their website. There is some good information out there. It's like someone threw me everything, and sometimes you just don't need everything. You need to get to the point. And I think that's where their website makes a big mistake. So let's move in here to the next site. So Public is, I guess, just a trading platform, and they have put together an analyst report of the stock. Oops. Okay, so Public here is like I said, they're a trading platform, and they put together an analyst report from different analysts, and they came out with that this stock should be sitting at $12.31. This number keeps changing a little bit. If you have an account, you can sign in. I know I saw last week an analyst report on this site saying that the stock could be up to $35. And so I want you to keep that in mind. This stock right now is trading at 103. So if it was me, and I'm not a investment advisor, so don't take my advice, my word, on any of this. I'm just displaying factual information that I'm seeing. So you need to do your own homework at the end of the day. But the current value is at 103. They're estimating at 1231. So this is important to keep in the back of your mind. Now, if you start reading around, most people will say, oh, no, it's only worth up to between 90 cents and $2. I don't buy it. I can't buy it at this point. There's too much information that says otherwise. So we're going to go over to, okay, if you're familiar with YouTube, they put out you can go in there and do some research. It won't cost you anything. And it's a good place to find out some basic information. So I would tell you, go ahead and use YouTube a little bit. So I pulled up this one here, this news report off of YouTube. It says beverages and alcohol and tobacco stocks, Q2 teardown. And so we go to TLRY. And basically, if you read through it, it's basically the beer, the soda and cigarette market with beers are declining. And I will tell you, that's a bunch of BS. Let's think about this realistically. When people are hurting, they always they'll make sure that they have their alcohol. Why? Because it lets you blow off steam after a hard week's work. And when you don't have much money and you can't afford to take a vacation, you're going to go buy the beer because it's the cheapest thing to do, to sit back and just get rid of the steam. In good times, you do the same thing. You'll buy that beer, but you might be taking a vacation to the beach. So let's understand some of this stuff. So realistically, alcohol has been always a good investment because of people buy it in bad times and people buy it in good times. And that's one of those crazy investments that people don't get. But even with them saying, oh, sales are, the market's being hit on it, they're saying that their sales rose on the beverage side. I wonder why. Because of, like I said, in bad times, people buy alcohol. In good times, they buy alcohol. So in bad times, you know what? They may not be able to go out and buy the new vehicle. They may not be able to go out and get a bigger home, take a vacation. But, $10, you go down to the gas station, you can buy a beer, a six-pack of beer, no issues. So alcohol always sells. And so I thought this was interesting here. Now, they show a decent revenue source. And they're showing about 224.5 million. And they're saying it's down 2.3% overall, which is fine. And I'm not worried about that because of this is what most people, they're always wanting companies to sell more. They have to beat last year's earning projections. At some point in time, you can't keep beating past year's earning projections. You need to be able to sustain. And what that means, like most of us who have to live, we realize at some point in time, our income is going to cap out and we need to be able to live within that budget. Can we pay our bills within that budget? And what TLRY has shown me is they can pay their bills. They can pay their debt. They can keep the lights on. They can cover their employees. And they can keep moving their business. So what does that tell me? That's an indication saying that we can do this the long haul. So now I'm looking at them going, well, shoot, this isn't a pump and dump stock. This is a long haul ride. I can hold on to the stock for the long haul because they're showing me that they can pay their bills and maintain while they're not growing. That's perfectly fine. That sounds normal. That tells me that they know how to work within their budget. They know how to maintain a budget, and they know how to pay their bills within their budget. That doesn't sound so stupid to me. I don't need a company that is just constantly beating records. I need a company that knows how to sustain and pay their bills in a timely manner. So that tells me it's a good investment. Okay. TLRY fell below $1, and it needs to stay above $1 in order to meet NASDAQ requirements. There's some other requirements in there, but TLRY just went back up above $1 this past week. It needs to stay above $1 in order to ensure its compliance. Therefore, TLRY has to do everything it can to make sure the dollar or that its stock stays above that dollar mark and gets away from $1, closer to $2 or $3 or $4, just to ensure its safety. This comes back to that $12 mark that it has to get to. So this is another key indicator that they can't keep doing this. So they're going to have to do something. Either they have to reverse the stock. That means they have to uh, take the stock and reduce down how much stock is out there. So it's kind of like instead of you having 2 shares, for every 2 shares you have, you would have 1 share, or it could be for every 4 shares you have, you get 1 share, which increases the price of the stock. But I don't see them wanting to do that. I don't want them to do that. I think that they have enough stuff inside the closet that if they opened up the closet, did some digging, they have enough information out there to turn around and combat these stock analysts who keep trying to push down their stock and saying we're a viable, reliable, long-term company that is going to make it. At this point in time, they're showing these signs. So they need to turn around and start marketing and telling and showing investors why they need to be around, why they're going to be around. Okay, so this was what was another area of interesting that was key point. So they just broke into European markets. So now they're in the last month. Let's just go. I believe it's about a month and a half, maybe less than a month. They got into France and Italy, which is opening up the door for them to sell their pharmaceutical cannabis into these 2 countries, but also opens the door for them to get into the EU. What they're doing is they're demonstrating that they really don't need the US in order to grow. And if we think about it, if you're solely relying on the US to grow, that what you're telling me is that the US is so sick. They're more sicker than everyone else out there. This isn't like a typical product that every consumer needs. This is about medical issues. I know plenty of people who use cannabis products because of medical issues, especially in older adults. They use creams. They'll make creams out of cannabis, to heal the joints and different things. And we don't think about that there's really good medical reasons why cannabis is good for you. But to say that every American is going to need cannabis is a lie. And there is more people in the world than there is in the United States. So I could care less if they ever sell within the United States. I'm more curious that they're selling in the EU. So they have Canada, they have a couple countries in the EU. And if they can keep growing, let's say in Mexico and Belize and other countries in the world, I'm more than happy with that. That will still equate to something that could be much larger than what the US market would be. All right, here's my next tab. So what I'm showing you is here. Anything in red is investment groups that have sold off their stock in TLRY, and anything in green is indicating that they bought stocks in TLRY. So there's a lot of companies that are investment companies that have bought stock in TLRY. Let's go like Wells Fargo. There's a couple other big names here. Vanguard is one of them. Brickshaw and Hathaway is another one. Go through, see who's buying into the stock. When you have so many financial investors in there, mutual funds, large mutual funds with heavy holdings, It tells me something. Mutual funds are about making money and most of the time they're playing with most people's retirement accounts. So if they're investing in this, that tells me that they also see that there is a larger upside of at least $12 a share or higher at that $30 mark in this company. So they're indicating that they're hedging over the long term, that this stock is going to make money. I do not know any investment firms that just throw money away and tell their investors, I'm sorry, keep investing with me. I've never heard of that. Every investor would pull their money out of those funds in a heartbeat if investment firms started doing that. So if they're investing in this, that means that they have confidence that they're not going to lose their investors' money. This is another key indicator. Now, with that said, so I've gone through a lot of key indicators here. And so this is what I'm taking from it, what I've realized from reading through the news and different things. In the last few weeks, the executives bought up more shares of stock for their individual purposes. That doesn't make sense if the stock is going to decline. They're buying it because they think the stock is going to jump in price. So no one buys stock to lose money. And you're not throwing away the type of money that they threw at buying the stock. Their quarterly report, the last one over the last, I think, couple of weeks, it had mixed reviews because of its sales were down. But what was interesting and what came out of that quarterly report was this: consistently, they're keeping their debt down. They're paying down their debt. So they took all this debt, they went out and bought all these companies, but they're paying it down, and they're not paying it down by a little bit. They're paying it down by quite a bit every quarter. So this is indicating that they have enough money to start getting rid of their debt. That means that they have enough revenues to turn around and pay to get rid of this debt and maintain that company. This is a key indicator telling me that they're able to last for more than just a few years. This is where things get interesting, telling me I can hold the stock for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and know that, hey, I'm in a good investment. That's where things get interesting. They picked up a couple of new countries. And, when it comes to selling things, just because you get approval from the government to move your products, especially in a pharmaceutical industry, it doesn't mean that they're going to see the rewards of it day one. It could take up to 12 months by the time that you get the products moved into the pharmacies and you make the deals with the pharmacies to start selling the products. So it's not overnight that you see the upside potential. So this is a positive, but it's not a positive that you're going to see right away. This is something that we'll start seeing over the next 12 months, the benefits of going into Europe. Now, the other area that I want to say that is something very interesting that no one realizes. This company owns a lot of assets. In other words, it owns land. It's farming cannabis. It owns land. It has to farm cannabis on property. And it owns it just more than in Canada. And this means that it has underlying value sitting there. Now, normally when we talk about equipment assets are great, but in 10 years, they have to replace them out. they'll become unvaluable over time. But land never becomes unvaluable. It only grows in price as time goes on. And so this is something I like to keep in the back of my mind that says there's a hidden gem sitting there. I would tell you to take a look at this stock symbol, TLRY. And if it makes sense to you, then go ahead and buy some. I will tell you, I'm in. I'm in for the ride. My message is for these short sellers out there that are trying to get a quick buck. You know you're going to keep trying to short sell the stock, but eventually you're going to get burnt. This is a valuable company. It actually has something. And for those who think that it doesn't, you need to really understand what it takes to run a company. And when a company is growing, in other words, stabilizing out, it doesn't need the disruption of short sellers. Go mess with the big companies. They can absorb it. You can't knock it down too much so the big companies don't care. These little companies that are just getting off the ground, they're starting to show stability. They're starting to show that they know what in the hell they're doing. Leave them alone. It's just common sense. You know, go gamble somewhere else. Leave companies alone that are actually doing the right thing and trying to do the right thing. You know, it's hard to run a business. I ran a business for about 20 years, and it's rough. It's rough. And so my hat's off to Tilray. I think you have a good company. I think you're doing a lousy job at displaying how good your company is. And I think you could do a lot better job, which would increase your stock price dramatically if you actually started combating all these ignorant analysts out there who are trying to knock down the stock price. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think you need to get up and do the work to display who you really are and what you really have. With that said, if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe. I need the community's help at the end of the day. I'm trying my best to explain things that I have learned along my way when it comes to spirituality and other things that I'm doing in my life to improve my own life, to improve my health, to ensure that I live a good life. And if you think the stock is going to help you secure your future, and then go ahead and dump some money in it. Go ahead and buy the stock. I think it's worth it. I see the long-term viability of this company. So that's, like I said, I'm not an investment advisor, but that's my opinion, and that's all I have. So take it the way you want to. Do your own homework. And if you see what I see, hey, it's up to you to go for it. Until later, take care.